Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's Friday night, it's 9 p.m. and we are back here on one more episode on the series of
How to Ace Your Career.
So guys, every time I come and I share my introduction, I'm a career and a life coach, and I coach specifically people of the mid-age, which means people with 12 to 15 years of experience who are stuck in their career and are wanting to ace their career.
Absolutely. And I'm her business partner, life partner, Dheeraj. And I'm a career coach, business coach, and a life coach.
And together we form
ND Life Coaching.
So guys, today's session is going to be an amazing session.
Absolutely.
Because we are going live with a guest who is going to share his amazing success story.
I can promise you one thing today, that all those people who are listening to us, who have come from a small town with the belief that they want to make it big, this person's story is going to give you that reassurance that yes, if this person coming from this place can make it so big, I can definitely do it. That is a promise. Just be with us and listen carefully and prepare right note, because it's rare to find a person coming live with us for all of us. So let's go and welcome.
But before we welcome, I would want to know from all of you, how many of you have heard of a place called as Nalbari?
Nalbari, how many of you have heard
about? Does it exist in the map of India, or it's from some other place?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm sure none of you have heard of this place, a village, a small little place in India which doesn't exist on the map, which even today would have probably 100 families together.
Yes, that's it.
So our guest is coming from that place tonight, and he's made it big in the dream city of India.
In Mumbai. And used to stay in Juhu, Linking Road, Bandstand from Nalbari. Okay.
So that's the life story that we are going to hear. There's many more insights we're going to gather. Let's really give a warm welcome to our guest tonight. And I would want to see a lot of love on this page for Mr. Santanu Choudhury.
Yay!
Santanu, if you could come on the video, please.
Welcome.
We're really excited to have you here today.
Welcome. It's an honor to us and all our audience to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us live today.
So no one has heard of this place from where you were born. So if you could share which part of the country you belong from.
Well, it's from Assam.
Situated.
It's in Assam.
Okay.
And yeah, when I was growing up, I think we had about 50, 60 families in the town.
Yeah.
And pretty much like a gaon, but we used to call it a town. And later years, of course, it became rather popular because of some not so nice thing called some extremist activities.
Okay.
But yeah, that's where I come from. It's a place called Nalbari, about 60 kilometers from Guwahati.
Okay. Yeah. So coming from a small town like Nalbari, we generally expect a person probably will somehow manage to get education, somehow, probably will finish his 12th and get into some small little jobs, odd jobs, and sustain his family and his life. How did you make it to something called as
IIT?
One of the most premium institute in the country. How did you reach there? And why did you choose engineering?
Yeah, I think the second question is easier to address. Why I chose engineering, because those days you either have to be an engineer or a doctor. So choice was pretty simple. So I said, let me become an engineer. And next issue was more challenging, because having decided to become an engineer, I had to decide what kind of an engineer. Of course, that was my own personal thought, that where do I want to pursue. And then, yeah, I think this came that thought that why not go to the best. I came to know about IITs through a few cousins here and there. And so I had this dream to kind of go to one of them.
But Shantanu,
So
I mean, from Nalbari, where, today, even if you have to crack an engineering decent college, kids have the opportunity to get coaching.
Coaching, yeah.
Parents are really helping them since the 10th standard. You, from such a small time, how did you really manage to get an admission in IIT?
but actually those days the IIT coaching was not such a big affair
Yes.
because we didn't have a lot of coaching institutes. I think few we had, probably in Bombay we had one or two, maybe Delhi we had, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
A few schools were kind of quite clearly preparing their students for IITs, mostly in, I know about schools in Bihar and West Bengal, but obviously I had no access to any of that. So I managed to buy one IIT entrance book,
Hmm.
and and then it was, of course, my own kind of pursuit of figuring out what is the kind of questions that's going to come and how do I prepare it, catching this teacher here, that senior there. Yeah, quite an exciting journey, and so it worked out. I think it sort of worked out. Yeah.
Great. So with all this hard work, dedication, you get into IIT, and then you make a move after finishing engineering, and again land up in the best institute, even today known for management, IIM, and not only IIM, it's actually IIM
And
Ahmedabad.
Ahmedabad, yeah,
So
absolutely.
from an engineer to management, how did this happen?
Well, that's what I think is Amir Khan movie Three Idiots.
Okay.
He lovingly calls us idiots, right? Gada.
Hmm.
So I think I don't completely own that title, but the fact is the excitement of being engineer kind of wore out after 2 3 years of study of engineering, and one came to realize that that's not what I really wanted to do, and machines is not what really excited me.
Hmm.
Economics, financial systems seems to be of a bigger interest. So then I said I have to go to an IIM. And again, those days, IIMs were only three actually:
Yes.
Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Kolkata. And so once again, the same point that you didn't have an access to any coaching.
Yes.
Nor did I feel that there was a great need for that. Once again, I think one was preparing oneself, and uh, and that's how probably everybody did those days in the IITs. So a lot of us went to the IIMs.
Hmm.
Everybody did their own preparation.
Yes.
So that worked out, and so I was here in IIM. And yeah, one word I want to say about IIM is that it was pretty different from what happened in IITs.
Hmm.
And I mean, I really had to study. The, the, the professors out there those days, I think, were so dedicated and so committed that their lights used to go off at 2 o'clock in the morning in their offices. And so,
Wow.
it didn't seem too much for us to be then continuing till 2 and 3 in the morning.
Hmm.
And that, I think, really was a great education. And I cannot forget some of my professors from IIM.
Wow.
Wow.
And what they instilled in us was, I think, the most important thing. Probably because there's not so much of tools and techniques that I really picked up there.
Hmm.
What I picked up was a lot of confidence to believe that I can solve a business problem.
Ah.
Wow.
That is what I think was the constant hammering from day one till the end. So yeah, one came out maybe confident, maybe some thought arrogant, but that's what I was. So I came out a graduate from IIM Ahmedabad.
So an IIT and IIM graduate from Ahmedabad comes out and looks for a job. What kind of job did you get? Where did you land up?
Yeah, I wanted to be in the financial sector.
Okay.
And options are not many those days. You had the banks, you had some foreign banks. We had this institution called IDBI, and they were the largest financial institution in the country in those days.
Right.
And IDBI was funding the kind of largest infrastructure projects in the country those days. Okay, and so I went for that interview, and though my thoughts were somewhat different from what the interviewers were expecting
Yeah.
in terms of where I wanted to work,
Mhm.
they're pretty clear that I needed to go to Bombay.
Hmm.
And that's how I landed up in Bombay through a campus placement. So I
Okay.
was placed to the campus. Yeah.
That's nice.
So landing up in the one of the biggest financial institute in Bombay, which even today is a dream city for many people to settle. How was the experience of your first job?
Well, initially it was very tough because we were paid hardly any money, right?
Okay.
So one had to really kind of run on shoestring budgets.
Hmm.
But it was an amazing place from the perspective of learning,
Okay.
because I had an exposure to the biggest industrialists of the nation,
Hmm.
their CFOs, their CXOs.
Right.
So that exposure was invaluable. So of course, most of the time after the office, I'll run out and catch a bus. But inside the building, I've always talked about 100 crores and 1,000 crores.
Wow.
So good, exciting journey, and learned a lot, I think, through that job.
So Shantanu, 100,000 crores, you're talking which year?
This was 1990, 93, 94.
Wow. I
So
mean, today also these numbers seem
90s,
big.
most of the 90s.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
numbers
because
even
those
seem
days the
big.
projects that we did were very large by Indian standards,
Hmm.
5,000 crores, 10,000 crores. And we typically were funding 2,000 crores, sometimes 700 crores. And yeah, these are pretty large by those, which I'm talking about nearly 25 years, 30 years back, big projects.
And how was that feeling of, I mean, sanctioning such huge budgets to people outside, and then you coming in the bus and traveling in the bus like a common man?
Yeah, actually, you have to live two different lives, right? Once you're inside the building, you talk crores. Outside it, you come, you start talking about 10 rupees and 20 rupees. And one got sort of used to that lifestyle. And it was fun because I could see really what was happening with the Indian economy. Not from a theoretical standpoint, but from a very practical standpoint, getting to meet, like, say, uh, telecom had come for the first time in 95 in India. So I was meeting those telecom entrepreneurs, their CFOs, and how they're visualizing the industry. And
Hmm.
very exciting time because everything was new for this
Hmm.
country.
Hmm.
We had to wait for 3 years to get the telephone lines, right?
Right.
And suddenly these people are bringing on a telephone which you could get over a period of maybe 15, 20 days those days.
Hmm.
And I went to Nokia headquarters and heard even more crazy things as to what's the future.
Hmm.
I found it funny, but today all of that is reality. Not today, it became reality even 20 years back.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think the excitement of learning was, I think, probably paid for all the other have-nots, financially and otherwise, for the initial few years. Yeah,
Great. So from IDBI, a position of authority, sanctioning thousands of crore, which was your next job?
I stayed there for fairly long. I had 3 promotions. I became a manager,
Wow.
and but then I realized that it was kind of getting a little monotonous, or maybe it lacked the excitement of doing something myself.
Hmm.
I felt I had too much of power and too little, I wouldn't say accountability, but yeah, I mean, there was nothing to push me. Okay.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
could just be comfortable with what was happening.
Hmm.
True.
And what was happening outside was, I believed, was far more exciting, right?
Okay.
So, kind of bringing down the waiting time for a telephone connection from 5 years to 5 days. That kind of transformation was happening in the Indian economy.
Yeah.
And then internet came in, which was talking about even more, dramatic transformation. So
Yes.
I wanted to come out and see what's going on. And yes, I did join my first job outside of IDBI. I joined the internet startup,
Oh.
and yeah, it was the first company in India providing a lot of new internet services like data networks, virtual private networks. We had a data center. So yes, if you think about it today, it's laughable because our data center was just about 2,000 square feet. Possibly you could just accommodate about 100 servers there. Today, maybe data centers may be as big as a 1 acre.
True.
But the fact is, it was the first time, and we were defining those services, and we were creating the financial model for those services, uh, service levels, and stuff like that. Very interesting, very exciting. We did get a lot of kind of focus in the investor's mind, being a very, very unique and very dynamic internet service providing company in India those days.
Yeah.
And by January 2000, sometime I remember, we had done some private deals to offload part of our equity. And so company was valued at $1 billion, and that was the
Wow.
headline in economic times those days.
Wow.
And yeah, I had my own thoughts and questions. I think better not get into it here.
Wow. So
But
you joined there as what?
Well,
CFO.
I was a CFO. Oh, I
CFO.
forgot to
Right.
mention.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I
So
came in as a
CFO of a
CFO.
startup company and then taking it to that valuation of $1 billion. Awesome. Real great journey. So did you continue being a CFO or did you make a switch?
Well, I think things didn't continue. Like as I somewhere also was a little skeptical. The valuation in the internet world was massively bloated up, and a lot of over over expectations of performances were built into the financial
Okay.
valuations, which obviously we all know that we had a massive meltdown in the stock markets,
Right.
2011.
Yeah.
So that's the time I also kind of came out of that, and uh, I was looking at another thing at the same time, that internet had also enabled certain new kind of possibilities for Indian economy.
Hmm.
As a banker in 91, I seen the saddest moment when we as a country probably had 2 months of money to import crude oil. Okay. And we had to go and beg IMF for $1 billion to kind of keep ourselves running. Very sad and very insulting kind of a time as a person from this country.
Yeah.
And that's the time around 2001, this whole discussion started around a new concept called the BRICS nations. Okay.
Okay.
Brazil, Russia,
Right.
India,
Yeah.
China.
Yeah.
How these nations are now going to take a kind of a massive growth path, and we are going to be the real superpowers in 21st century. Very excited, a very exciting idea. In fact, even today, it's a very exciting idea, right?
True.
Because I've seen the worst in terms of an economic state for my own country. And to see such a great possibilities was very exciting.
Yeah.
And one of the things I saw in terms of a business possibility was this whole business process outsourcing,
Yeah.
sector,
Yeah. BPO.
BPO. And I read, as much as I could lay my hands on, and so I created my own perspectives on what can happen in that industry.
Yeah.
And this time I was also feeling a little bit more ambitious, I guess.
Yeah.
So what happened is I managed to speak to some people, and then they liked my kind of probably the ability to strategize on a business. And so I joined one BPO company in Bombay
Hmm.
in 2001. I think I joined. Yeah, 2001,
Hmm.
and I joined as a VP business strategy. Okay,
Okay.
and I was sort of going around with the then CEO, and it was a smallish setup, about 400 people we had, but
Hmm.
still pretty pioneering, because that I think there are not many BPOs in India.
Correct.
So after 1 year of playing that role as a strategy consultant, I was offered the role of chief operating officer.
Wow.
Wow.
And so I think my strategy perspectives definitely was probably
Oh,
seen to be a strong inputs.
yeah.
And so I became a CEO. In 2002, I think I became a CEO. And my CEO was sitting in the United States, because most of the uh, clients were from US, and so he was managing the front end, and I was here managing the back end. So we started responding to the situation, and we started growing very fast. In a space of, I think, 2 years, we grew from about 400 to about 700
Hmm.
or 800, almost
Hmm.
100% growth.
Yeah.
And then something happened. So this is, I just want to share this. I have time, right?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Yeah, I think the dream of being a CEO was great and very thrilling. But one of the business process that we're running there, which had, I think, more than 50% people, so 400 people are employed into that one process.
Yeah.
So one of my employees made a big mistake, which is called a misrep in the call center terms,
Hmm.
and the client caught him,
Hmm.
and that is considered a very serious kind of a error, or
Okay.
in the, especially in the United States market.
Hmm.
So suddenly the client was absolutely upset, and they scaled down that one particular floor and also threatened to withdraw the entire business.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so my whole center actually subsisted on that process, to more than 50% of revenue streams.
Hmm.
So of course, all the top management got involved,
Hmm.
directors and people like that, and everybody had so many things to say.
Hmm.
But ultimately, I think the fingers are all directly or indirectly pointing at me.
Hmm.
And I had to take that pressure.
Hmm.
I didn't know how to solve this problem, because I cannot possibly control the quality of 700 people talking 10 to 12 hours a day. I can't control what they speak every moment of the time.
Right.
So how does one check this? Okay.
Right.
But I said, whatever I can do, I must do. Okay?
Hmm.
So I decided that I have to change the office timings. I started coming on the actual shift timings, and I used to spend the whole night walking the
Wow.
floor. And because everybody was scared and shocked. And so I think my presence probably gave my employees and my managers and AVPs some kind of a confidence that, uh, somebody is there to kind of, stand by us. And
Right.
so I kept encouraging them. The staff, I think for about 15, 17 days, I was carrying out the 8 o'clock to 6:30 in the morning kind of a work hours, and
Hmm.
leave home, leave office, reach home, and can't sleep after that. I mean, reach home at 8
That's
o'clock in the
daylight.
morning. It's
True.
daylight, and everybody is noise and whatever.
Yeah.
But it was noticed, I guess, and the client was coming down, and they were kind of probably they knew that this man was kind of putting his everything to kind of sort. Uh, and slowly, I think they restored our volumes of business, and by then I was probably more ambitious. So when those rounds in those 15 days, I found few employees who were doing something very different, which was not even asked for by the client. When we were doing actually analytics, okay,
Correct.
Client didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
So I saw the value in it. So I started formally sending those analytics to the clients. Okay, that and then I eventually asked for a raise in the price.
Okay.
The client was a little shocked. She was saying, it must be funny because we are negotiating to bring down the price and we're already paying the highest possible price and you're saying you want more. I said, but I'm giving you more. Okay. And this is a good thing I want to share today, that prices are not something, fixed for anything. And it depends on what value you provide to your client.
Absolutely right.
And so you got to be constantly on the lookout for, especially if you're playing that kind of a senior role, that where are you going to add value to your client? So eventually they gave me about 8% rise in my price.
Wow.
And
so from the stage of being scaled off to having a high
yeah,
8%.
I think the transformation took place in about 4 months' time.
Wow.
And then eventually we grew. We became about 2,500 people.
Wow.
And I was, I of course did not have any operational experience, but I brought in some of my financial skills to train my managers, which is another thing I remember that, because eventually I think I left that business in about 2006. I left it.
Yeah.
But later on, my fellows used to tell me that, our managers had a reputation in the whole BPO market, that if you're getting these guys from that company, you will go to get somebody who's very, very familiar with finance.
Wow.
Okay? So they had a lot of financial skills, which I think I taught them. So yeah, it was a very thrilling, very exciting journey.
Wow.
So where did you move from here?
But for a brief while, I joined a telecom company,
Okay.
and then of course that was not something I was really very excited about. We are pretty much into fabrication of a lot of telecom equipment and stuff like that. Then 2008, I think I left for an aviation management company. We were managing business aviation.
Okay.
We're doing maintenance of aircraft for business aviation sector.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was the CEO and the director of the company.
Wow.
Wow.
And that was interesting because, again, aviation is a completely new
Yes.
kind of a business. Unlike any other business, because it's got highly regulated kind of ways of operating, because it's all controlled by DCCI.
Sure.
Because the high risk involved in everything that we do.
Yeah.
So I had to learn them, and when I went in, we were not managing the monthly cash requirements are not coming in. And then at one stage, I had to ask the investor to fund me to pay salary. And yeah, there were hard, tough words he used to tell me that if you can't pay for your salary, then what kind of business are you running? quite a sobering experience. But then I think we worked very hard. In 2 months' time, we were kind of sufficient. We were able to manage our. And then again, started the process of growing that company. And
Wow.
so 2010, finally, I quit that company. And I think we started with about 40 odd aircrafts. Probably became about, added some 10 or 12 more aircrafts. And so learned again. So I think I learned a lot in whatever
So
job
in fact,
I.
that is what is really making me curious. That with the background of finance, you started in a financial institute, moved as a CEO, which is then CFO into finance. So you're heading financial decisions. Then you get into CEO, which is operations. Then you become a CEO and a director, and that to different industries. So first from finance, then you go into BPO, then you're getting into aviation. People generally say if you want to grow, you grow in your own domain and you reach there. What is that is required to reach a position which is like heading your own company?
Yeah,
You're a CEO and a
absolutely.
director. What are the traits or the qualities a person needs to reach there?
Yes.
First thing is, I think your drive. You have to have a passion to do things. Okay,
Hmm.
you got to be ambitious to say, to kind of play a bigger, broader role,
Hmm.
and you got to have people skills because ultimately it's people who run a business. So you got to know how to deal with people.
Right.
You got to have financial skill. You got to be very confident of your numbers,
Hmm.
so that you're not going, all over the place. But nothing like your what I would say is the word resourcefulness,
Hmm.
because be it the BPO business or be it the aviation business, I did face those moments where uh, there was no obvious solution to
Hmm.
the problem I faced,
Hmm.
and uh, nobody could help me with those solutions.
Hmm.
And second, you are alone. In those times, you are absolutely alone. Okay? So you got to be with yourself.
Hmm.
You got to trust your own self. You got to calm your fears because they can be very scary.
Absolutely right.
And because your juniors will do what you direct them towards,
Hmm.
but the the drive has to come from your life. Okay?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that I think is a very important quality. I think for us to kind of have that, and of course you got to be familiar with what's going on in the industry.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you are completely in the darkness. Okay?
Hmm.
Where should this business go, and what are the challenges, and what are the value addition possibilities, and what are the growth numbers one can look at.
Wow.
So that familiarity you got to have, absolutely. But beyond that, it's your absolute own resourcefulness to deal with that unique problem in that unique situation where you find yourself.
Great.
That's amazing.
So, guys, all of you who are listening to us, I would love to know from you what are the most important things he's just mentioned. That if you have to be successful in your career, it doesn't matter which domain you're moving, where you're heading, but if you have a dream and an ambition, you can make it happen. So, what did he mention as those personality traits? What did he really do to reach there? Till then, I'll have further answers from Shantanu. So, you didn't stop there. You all of a sudden took a very different turn towards your life.
Yes.
What was your next decision?
When I was running the BPO, and I used to obviously attend a lot of those national conferences held by NASCOM and bodies like that. And everywhere I heard, which I also experienced, that we had millions of young people who
Hmm.
wanted to work, but we could not employ them because they forget being capable of entering the job. We couldn't even possibly train them in a reasonable time frame to be ready to do the job.
Hmm.
So just to give a statistic, if 100 people walked in for a walk-in interview in my center, uh, at the end of the day, we'll end up picking up 5.
Oh.
The
Oh.
rest, 95, and I can't even train them. Okay? So therefore, here was a situation that India was sitting at a big opportunity of becoming the capital for business process outsourcing business. But, and we had huge manpower to fill up that space, but we didn't have qualified, skilled manpower to do the job.
Hmm.
And of course, the discussions always go to say, why should government do something? Why should uh, universities do something? And year after year, the same discussion, and nothing actually happened.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of playing in my mind that if BRIC Nation is to become a reality,
Hmm.
we got to have an ability to work with skilling people. Okay,
Right.
Yes.
I can't do that. All this talk about BRIC and all is going to be just a theory.
Hmm.
So 2010, I think, is when I kind of said enough of it. I worked for over 25 years in bank and corporate sector. I said, shall I do something to do with skilling people? And as it is, I've been out of my home state most of my life. And so I said, can I go and do something there? Because everybody says nobody does anything for the state and we are the most backward state. So 2011, I went back and I decided to start a training institute to skill people. And targets were all school dropouts, plus 12, plus 11,
Hmm.
and we're training them in hospitality management, which I had no background in, once again.
Hmm.
So, so I, of course, managed to get some good trainers. And I, of course, spent a lot of times meeting hospitality executives to
Hmm.
know what do they expect of
Hmm.
this, associates that join them.
Hmm.
And more or less, I got a hang of what is it that they need. And
Hmm.
so I started my training program uh, under a lot of skepticism and a lot of humiliating comments from people that the word they used was you're crazy. Okay? So
And I think crazy people have always
you,
done such things that people admire later.
so
Absolutely.
uh, yeah, but it's not nice to
Face that.
run out of money
Yeah.
running crazy business, and then people all say you're failing because you're trying to do something crazy.
Hmm.
So once again, a very tough phase to kind of stand by what I believed
Yes.
and not be afraid of going bankrupt.
Hmm.
And help came, and I managed to get sponsorship here and there. So we started scaling up. We started training 100 guys, then 200 guys, then 500 guys. Finally, we're training over 1,000 guys a year.
Wow.
Wow.
And we probably were the only skill institution, I would say, in the country that provided 1,000 jobs to 1,000 kids who got trained in my institute.
Wow.
Okay. And not just any job, in the best of the hotels in the country. Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
So, so I think BRIC Nation is possible if a lot of us trying to do something like this. And that time I was also in a university because they invited me to head their management department as a dean.
Okay.
And then I saw something which I did not quite like, because I saw the same old stuff of people going and studying something because they thought it was a kind of hip. Some parents said that's the way to go. And they had no clue what they were studying and why they were studying, and they were performing miserably. Okay?
Hmm.
And I could see that because I was part of that. Uh, top management of the university.
Yes.
And that's when in 2019, finally, I said, enough of it. I want to create a test to kind of provide the direction to a student as to what he should study. So my aptitude test, career counseling practice, I started in 2019. And so it so happened that most of the students began to actually enroll from Bombay. So even though I was in Guwahati, my student, more of them came from Bombay.
Wow.
And then over a period of time, I also added other streams of revenue. Like we also started doing counseling for studying abroad. And yeah, so that's what I do mostly nowadays.
Wow.
I'm into career counseling.
Amazing.
So, what an amazing journey, Shantanu, from a small town to the most reputed institutes in the country, and then moving up the corporate ladder to the topmost position of being a director, and then having the courage to leave all that.
Actually living Mumbai
Yeah.
and leaving Juhu. Can you imagine?
And then coming
Wow.
back to repay back to your hometown where you're working on underprivileged students.
Wow.
And they're getting jobs in the topmost hotels in the country, and now you're wanting to do something for the youth so that they study what they love to do and they can really outperform in their career. It's really an
Wow.
amazing journey. We wish that we have such more amazing examples as leaders in this country, and the country do much better. It's really wonderful to have here. So what could be your last words to the youth of the nation? What do you want to do for them?
I think we have a huge opportunities, and there are a lot of challenges, but depends on what you look at. Okay?
Yeah.
So you got to look at the possibilities of life rather than challenges of life. And India is absolutely sitting on a huge kind of a possibility right now.
Yeah.
So I want you to be kind of ambitious. I want you to be ambitious. Don't mean you just ignore other people. Okay. So you got to be caring for people, but be ambitious. Okay. And you can do wonders with your life, because that's the possibility this country offers us.
Wow. Shantanu, we have one of the questions for you. This has come from the people who are listening to you.
They're live here. Yeah.
Yes, and he wants to know what was your biggest fear and what's been your biggest motivation to do all what you've done in life.
Okay, initially the biggest motivation always was to prove myself in a way that I can scale up, I can go up, and I can achieve whatever it is. So I think there was this whole ambition to kind of achieve whatever is difficult. I can go and get it done. And but I think somewhere around latter part, I began to realize that there is something more important, okay? And that's the people. And when I say people, I think more about the young people, because they're going to live next 70 years, 80 years. And we are kind of brought them into a world which has got many more problems than we had.
Yeah.
Fortunately, many more opportunities too.
Correct.
But
Yes.
many more problems. I feel that that's my motivation came that, I got to do something for these people, because that's what is my privilege, my education, my whatever learning I had an opportunity to go through. So that is my inspiration, that what I can do for the young generation, because they are the future.
Wow.
Wow.
And one of the biggest fear that you faced in this journey.
The biggest fear always is, uh, I know I like to take risks. Okay? Because I get uncomfortable when things are too pushy or comfortable. So that is a part of me, I guess. And so I got into fairly tight spots, especially when I started my entrepreneurship journey. it was a very tight spot after 3 years when I ran out of all my funds.
Hmm.
So yeah, one doesn't want to be in that space. Okay, again and again.
Hmm.
One would like to be a little bit more better prepared for that. Other than that, I guess no other great fear.
Wow.
Hmm.
Good.
Awesome. So thank you very much for being here tonight.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure people who are listening to the story have really been inspired, and all those who go through the recording later. It's been an amazing journey and really been a great inspiration for us to listen to you.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming, and from behalf of all the viewers who are listening now or are going to listen to you later, thank you so much for coming here and sharing your experience. I'm sure this is going to be a huge help to all the people out there so that they can. So, are you in the last? I want to know, are you anywhere wanting to do something for, if people want any kind of help?
I would go one step beyond, and I would say for youngsters who are aiming to become a CEO or CXO someday, can they reach out to you and get coached from you, mentored from you?
Anything of that sort. Though we are coaches, but we feel you are the person that they should get attached to. Are you planning of something like this?
It'll be very exciting to do that because I know the situations have changed,
Yes.
business reality, economic, but I think certain basic principles remain unchanged. And if my help can help somebody kind of deal with some of the challenges and come out, that will be extremely gratifying.
Wow.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this open invite for people, whoever wants to reach out and get mentored from him, they can reach out to Shantanu. I'll post in the profile.
Yes.
And please get in touch with him and learn a lot from him. I know it's been a great, insightful session today. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Santanu sir. Bye-bye. So see
Thank
again
you
on
very
the
much
next.
for
Yes.
having me here.
Pleasure is all ourselves. So thank you, everyone, and see you again on next Friday on
How to Ace Your Career.
Good night and have a lovely weekend. Thank you.